Hi, welcome to the Parsha class, Parsha Vizot HaBracha, the last Parsha in the Torah, where Moshe Rabbeinu, before his death, gives a blessing to the Jewish people, to all of them, and to each tribe individually, and to the entire Jewish people as a whole, learning from our forefather Yaakov, that one should bless the Jewish people at the time of one's death, bless the children, and so Moshe, in a sense, the spiritual father of all the Jewish people, because he gave us the Torah, which teaches us how to be Jews and how to follow the Torah. So at his death, he blesses the Jewish people as well, and that's what this parsha is about. Of course, as we're going through a commentary that deals with the issues of food and halachot of food and kashrut, etc., Taam Dagan, as we look at the parsha, it's going to give us a unique perspective. It's going to look a little bit different than an ordinary class on Vizot HaBracha, and we'll see that there's quite a few references to halacha and hashkafa related to food in this parsha. So let's begin. Vizot HaBracha, the bracha for Yosef, who is really the two tribes of Menashe and Ephraim. It says, Yosef Amar, he said to Yosef. By the way, it's worth mentioning that just like last week's Parsha Hazinu, there was a lot of poetry and a lot of symbolism. So too here, especially when it comes to blessings, there's obviously quite a bit that can be, delved into to really get a good feel for what the parsha is about. But he says to Yosef, "Mivorechet Hashem artso, Hashem to bless your land." Obviously, this is a blessing for the agriculture, food that grows on the land. Here we have food again. All right, mimeged shamayim mital, that the dew should bring precious things from the heavens. Mithom rovesa tachat, and the deep that hides beneath. Right, so from beneath, from above, from everywhere, blessing should come to the land, is the idea. And the commentaries tell us. Let's start with Rashi. Rashi says that Yosef was the best land because it had a great variety of produce. It had all kinds of different things to eat, not just one kind of uh, fruit or one kind of vegetable. Like in some places in Europe or whatever, where you'd have places where potatoes grew, or some other place where turnips grew. A lot of things grew on Yosef's land. There's great variety, and variety is something worth talking about as well. There is something I think we've mentioned before, that there's a sort of blessing. Food gives the idea of food is the variety of flavors, the variety of tastes is something that we as humans that we crave. We're not satisfied with just one thing all the time. We want there to be variety, and that's a normal thing, and that's why Hashem provided so much variety of produce in the world. It's a beautiful thing, and Joseph's land had this produce and had different sweets. And why did Joseph's tribes, right, Menashe and Ephraim, why did they deserve such a thing? So they deserve this because their ancestor Yosef, their namesake, proved himself capable of handling the challenges of wealth. So if he did, and it's encoded in their DNA, more or less, spiritual DNA. So they too can handle it, and they'll be able to deal with the challenges of wealth. How do we see this? He had everything he wanted in Potiphar's home, and nevertheless, he restrained himself from taking advantage of it. It's also worth mentioning, I might as well type it in now. So that's why we do this. Right off the cuff, we can add things. There's also another reason. Another reason is that um, sorry, Yosef. Um, we know as as the um, as the governor, as the second in command in Mitzrayim. successfully took care of. I'll probably write this wrong. Um, so he supported not only the Egyptians, the Mitzrim, but his brothers as well. And this is something that I believe the Or HaChaim says. His brothers. I'm going to spell anything right today. There you go. Yeah. And yeah, do this the either way, easy way to save time here. Right. There you go. Just a moment here. Oops. Does funny things sometimes. For better, for better or for worse, Word is sometimes an interesting program. There you go. Good. Okay. So two verses later, we have Umerosh Harare Kedem Umimeged Givot Olam, from the tops of the ancient mountains, for the bounty of the everlasting hills. So what was this bounty of the hills that's worth praising? So the Rashi points out we're talking about that the hills grew fruit. There fruit growing on those hills that were not affected by drought. They just kept growing no matter what else was happening. It was such good land that you were able to grow fruit on it all the time. Of course, that provides for the people in a better way. Very next verse, Mimeged Eretz Umloa, and for the precious things of the earth and what was in it, Ratzon Shochni, and the goodwill of the one who lived Sneh, who lived in the bush, whatever that is. Tuata l'rosh Yosef l'kadkod nazir echav. So the blessing should come onto Yosef and the crown of his head of the one that is prince of his brothers. So he should be as prince of his brothers, and he should be in charge, and he as he was before. So why are we describing what's this the one who lived in who lived in the bush? This is Hashem, that he not lived as like resided there, but he occupied the bush, the thorn bush that Moshe saw, and that's a great symbol of the fact that Hashem cares about us when we're on fire, when things are tough, when things are difficult, when the Jewish people were in Mitzrayim. That's when Hashem shows Himself in the sneh, as if He Himself is suffering as well. Obviously, He's not really suffering, which is why the thorn bush was perhaps on fire, but it was not burning, was not suffering, or it was not on fire itself. In other words, it was like there was a fire in it, but it wasn't affecting it. So too, Hashem is not affected really by anything, really. But certainly, He wants us to know that He cares about our pain. He's with us in our pain. He has that kind of empathy that we're also supposed to show. So that's what it means that He was in the thorn bush, is to remind us that Hashem shares in our distress as He did when we were in Mitzrayim. So even when we're suffering, even when we're hungry, even when we don't have food and nutrition and everything else, Hashem is always with us. A few verses later, we have Zvulun. So in Zvulun's blessing, Moshe says, Amim har yikra'u sham yizbechu zivchei tzedek. They're going to call nations to the mountain. They're going to offer sacrifices, zevach, right, from the Masechta that Daf Yomi is learning right now, Zvachim, right? They're going to offer sacrifices of tzedek, of righteousness. Kishefa yamim yinaku usfune tmunechol. Right? Because they're going to get everything out of, they're going to like vacuum up everything that's in the waters, and they're going to find the hidden treasures of the sand. What's this talking about? So Zvulun is the tribe that was known for their ability to travel long distances on ships, and they in all these travels they're going to be exposed to various Gentile nations, which has its dangers, of course, but also has a lot of opportunities. There's an idea that there's certain, let's call it sparks of holiness, that are lost in the world, and it's our job to bring those sparks to fulfill their role in holiness. In other words, there are people who should convert to Judaism, and they do not have access to they don't know that we exist. We don't publicize it. We don't try to, we don't try to convert anybody. We don't what's the word? Right, I got at a loss here now. We don't try to convert other people, and as such, how are people supposed to know about us? So there's actually a similar incident that happens with in the beginning the Ruth story. That Elimelech and his family go to Midian, to Moab, and in a time of famine, and there are commentaries who write that perhaps this holy man Elimelech, maybe he knew what he was doing. He went out there to find these sparks of holiness that were, for example, in Ruth. He brought Ruth into, somehow indirectly, he brought her into Judaism, and she's the ancestor of David HaMelech, Shlomo HaMelech. So he did quite an important job. But so how would it have happened if he wouldn't have done this incorrect thing that he's punished for, that he dies in that land? So he should not have gone. He should have not have gone there. But if he hadn't, how would we get Ruth? So the commentaries explain. The Alshich writes about this, that had this not happened, had he stayed in Israel, the holiness that he would have encouraged, that he would have inspired amongst the Jewish people, would have magnetically brought people in. You don't need to always go out. You don't need to leave Israel in order to do this. We have been in exile for a long time, and that's one of the primary reasons for it. But that doesn't mean that we have to, that's the word, proselytize. We don't actively proselytize. That's not the goal. But if somebody has an inkling that they want to become Jewish, then we help them, or we maybe not necessarily encourage, but we answer their questions, obviously, as honestly as we can, and we give them the resources they need to become Jewish, if that's where their goal is. So Zvulun's travels around the world expose them to various Gentile nations. Being elevated in physical and spiritual wealth, they inspire those Gentiles whose souls want to convert. Part of what is so impressive about the Jews, says Rashi, that would encourage these Gentiles. What do they see that makes them want to convert? These sailors from Zvulun. What's so great about them? So one of the great things about them is that they all eat the same foods. They all eat only kosher foods. There's foods that they avoid. They don't eat, shellfish. They don't act selfish. Haha. Right. So they do what they can to uh, to eat kosher, to eat properly, to eat, as we've been learning in these classes in Taam, Dagan, eating properly with the right kind of attitudes, and the right philosophy about what food is for, and the dignity that we show while we're eating our food. We don't eat like animals, etc. So all of that it could inspire people to come to Judaism. All right. Next, a few verses later, we have the blessing to Naphtali. So it says, Naphtali Amar. So he said, the blessing to Naphtali. Naphtali Seva Ratzon. He's satisfied with what he wants. Umale Birkat Hashem. He's full with the blessing of Hashem. Yam V'darom Yerusha. He will inherit the sea and the south. Yam V'darom. Right, so he's going to have a lot of land, as all of the tribes do. Right, the entire land of Israel is divided up into parts for all of the 12 tribes, except for the two and a half who are on the other side of the Jordan. And so there's quite a bit of land for everybody. But so what is all this talk about him being satisfied? Sava ratzon. He should have his desire should be fulfilled. What are we talking about here? So first thing we need to know, as the Znaim Latour, I think, brings down, there's a challenge in being satisfied. We have a quote from Kohelet, which we're gonna, God willing, going to read on Shabbat, just a couple of days. He who loves money never has enough money, which the rabbis teach in the Midrash that when people have 100 coins, they have a mana, they want 2 mana, they want 200 coins. They're never satisfied. And the Gemara compares living in this world to being a guest at a wedding. You come as a guest, you're invited to a wedding, and the Gemara goes into some detail. This is an Eruvin 54a. So there's a number of reasons why there's such a comparison, that this world is like being at a wedding. So one reason is because we eat fast to not waste precious time, right? At a wedding, yeah, there's a lot of things to do. You don't have time to sit and eat, and it's not it's not there's food and there's plenty of it, I'm sure, but that's not what you're there for. You're there for to make happy the bride and groom. If you're spending all the time feeding yourself, you're not going to get to do what you're really there for. So time is short in this world. That's one of the reasons it's compared to wedding. Life is certainly too short to be wasted uh, 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 on eating the best foods, right? I know somebody that's what they do for their vacation. They do they go to food. They go to different places that they read about, that they heard about, that they saw a podcast about or whatever. Places with unique food experiences. So that's what they want. They want that's their experience. That's how they want to live their life. Listen, you want to live that kind of shallow existence. That's up to you. But I mean, there's probably better ways. There's probably more beautiful things in the world than what you're putting into your gut. And there's always consequences to putting the wrong things into your stomach. That's for sure. Um, this also demonstrates the priority given to spiritual over physical pleasures. That's what really that whole comparison of the wedding is like. We're supposed to we're in this world. There's a lot of pleasures to be gained, physical and spiritual. But to focus on physical pleasure like that is not what we're on this earth for. Often it is the honorees, by the way, like the Khatan and Kala and their families, that end up eating the least at their own weddings, right? They're busy pictures, they're busy greeting guests. They don't have time to sit down and eat properly. To prevent this dissatisfaction with life's blessings, right? That's why Moshe gave Naphtali this blessing of being satisfied and to not feel lacking in anything. Okay. And the last verse that has to do with food in this week's Parsha, that I could find anyway, is chapter 33, verse 28. V'yishkon Yisrael betach, badad ein Yaakov. So Yisrael, that's us. We're going to dwell in security. We're going to be in safety, and we're going to be, and it's going to be Badad Ein Yaakov. The fountain of Yaakov is going to be alone. It's not going to be interspersed around the world. We're all going to be together, and we're all going to be alone, just us. In where El Eretz Dagan V'Tirosh, a land filled with grain and wine. I guess I was going to translate Tirosh for now. Um, right? Avshamav, uh, Avshamav Yarfu Tal, and the heavens, the Shamayim, are going to drip dew. Right? So we've already had a reference to that, the idea that the dew will provide us with our food. Yisrael being secure while being alone is a possible source for the halacha of refraining from eating bishul akum. There's an opinion that that's one of the last halachot of the Torah. And I guess he says that there's basically it's a hint to a rabbinic halacha of bishul akum. What's bishul akum? So bishul akum is that a Jew needs to be involved, and we talked about this before. Um, Let me just make it more clear here. Let me spell it correctly. This halacha enjoins a Jew to be involved somehow in the preparation of cooked food. It should be, I'm saying this all wrong, to eat, right? Okay. Uh, in in its that's better. Okay. So this halacha enjoins a Jew to eat cooked food only if another Jew was um, involved in its preparation. Okay. Right. We're we have the natural world attacking us here in our sukkah today. There's a bee buzzing around. I'm not sure if it's being picked up on the microphone, but that's why I'm looking around. Okay. So this is a rabbinic conjunction to lessen the opportunities for Jews to have intimate meals with Gentiles as a way to discourage intermarriage. That's the idea. And this was once there was once an incident, when rebellious members of the Reish Galuta's household poisoned Rav Zevid with a cup of vinegar because he held a strict opinion regarding Bishul Akum. Bishul Akum was a serious thing. This part of the family, this rebellious part of the family, was concerned that they would not have the same kind of power and influence that the Reish Galuta is supposed to have by being buddy buddy, chum chum with chummy with the authorities. And if they can't eat together, they can't have that kind of relationship. And so they killed a rabbi, Rav Zevid, who told them that this is a problem, that they can only eat food is only kosher if a Jew is involved in its cooking. If it, by the way, if that's only if the food needs to be cooked. And maybe I'll point that out here. Um, uh, so this is only the case if the food is considered honorable. It's respectable food and could not be eaten in its raw state. So this is basically most cooked foods. Even eggs are considered chashuv. There was a time, and there was sort of like a running, uh, almost like a joke, like maybe French fries aren't. You wouldn't see, you wouldn't. A king wouldn't serve French fries at a meal. And then, President Clinton and President Trump, they did serve French fries at state dinners. So you see that even French fries are considered chashuv enough food that they need to be at least somehow, at least some part of the process of their preparation needs to be done. An intricate part, by the way. Um, we should put that in intricately. I'm probably misspelling it, though. I'll fix that later. We have one more last thing to say on the Parsha here, and that's that in the time of Mashiach, agriculture will return to the way that it was in the beginning before Adam's sin, when the entire world, the entire earth was watered by a mist and required no human participation. In reference to uh, the heavens dropping down dew, right? To the time of Mashiach, when agriculture will return to the way it was in the beginning before Adam's sin. So this is a reference to, this is the end of the Torah, being a reference to the beginning of the Torah, next week's Parsha in Bereshit, where we're going to see this verse, chapter 2, I think, verse 6. Yeah, chapter 2, verse 6. It talks about that there was a mist that covered the earth, and that's what watered all plants. And basically, what that means, says this forno, is that it did not require any human participation. No work had to be done. Adam did not need to eat by the sweat of his brow. Hashem provided him with the food easily. And as the sages put it, the land of Israel will one day grow cakes and silk clothing. We will eat food without having to struggle to attain it. May we deserve and merit to experience this quickly in our day. Right? So that's a bracha. Hopefully soon. This is especially on the holiday of Sukkot, is a time to talk about we see in the Haftarot, etc., and the promises in the beginning of the Gemara and Avodah Zarah that the mitzvah of Sukkah will become a relevant part of the test of the world when Mashiach comes. So maybe all merit to see soon in our day such wonderful blessings and only good things for everybody. Thank you for joining me, and have a great rest of your week.